Hello and welcome to the Warp Shelf. I'm Frank Duran.
I'm Deshaun Vasquez.
And today, two artists reach into the pile of,
It can be any sort of form of art. It can be books, it can be movies, TV shows, comic books sometimes, video games, which is sort of a hybridization of what we're talking about today. We got a kind of a twofer.
A little one here, where we're talking about Sonic 3, guys. We saw Sonic 3 in theaters together because we've now made it a tradition to keep seeing these movies together in theaters, like it's some event movie,
well,
like we're
twice
like,
is not a pattern, to be fair. We didn't see the first one together.
Hey, but the fourth one is already confirmed and we're going, Deshaun.
Yeah.
I got tickets already. We're going back. So, I mean, first off, me and him went to see this at the Alamo Drafthouse, and no, we're not sponsored, but baby, take me back. It's so good. Oh my goodness, what a nice theater.
Yeah, this was your first time out because for those of you who don't know, like I live closer to the Boston area. Frank lives in New Hampshire. Doesn't live in the Boston area anymore. So.
I work in Boston area, but it's, it's not like I'm hanging out watching movies.
Like, he hasn't gotten to go since they finally brought an Alamo Drafthouse location to Boston, whereas I have gone several times. I've gone a bunch ever since it's opened, and I'm hooked and addicted, especially since the nearest movie theater to me is an AMC, and people have gotten rowdy. People forgot how to behave post-pandemic.
That sucks. Yeah, you're just like, hey, you're not home. Like, shut up.
So even if it was a much further commute, I would just go further out to like the Coolidge or Somerville.
Yes. And I mean, the Coolidge is a fantastic theater, always showing like film prints of movies. And the Alamo Drafthouse is not exactly doing that, but they do have interesting film slates. And of course, like all the new films in a very like an adult slated movie theater, like very 21
Yeah, that
plus.
prioritizes like service.
Yes. And so I grew up with Chunky's, and now Chunky's is my local theater, my favorite local theater, because it's so cheap and then you get food. And so it's like one of those things where I grew up with a theater you already ate at, but you were sitting at a conference room table in car chairs, like it's supposed to be like a party kind of atmosphere while you're watching things. I had several birthdays. I saw all the Star Wars prequels there as birthdays because they all came out in May. Wild. It worked out well for me in my childhood. I was like, guys, we're doing another
This may
Star
sound
Wars.
terrible, but you know how you are as a kid where you're bad with like dates?
Yeah.
The reason I remember my dad's birthday is because it was the same day that Revenge of the Sith came out.
You're like, perfect. I have it forever now. Like, you're like, I can't remember it just knowing my dad, but like, now that Revenge of the Sith is tagged, this is perfect. But I really enjoyed the Alamo Drafthouse just for that. It was a nice theater experience, a big, even though a small theater we were in, like, not huge, not a big room, big screen, like it's like, because that could be a problem with going to the Coolidge sometimes. You go to the Coolidge and you get kind of a small screen. I love the Coolidge.
Yeah,
but
sometimes you might get like the straight up screening room, like upstairs, like the tiny guy.
Which is still great, still awesome. I mean, I cried my eyes out to the whale with you in that room. That, like,
and we only got that room because that was like just before they were going to pull it. Yeah,
it was like weeks after. So, and like, I don't mind that when that's happening, but like, I enjoyed that this room was like big, even though it wasn't too many seats, and that how much they were good about the sound. Like, even though it was a kid screening and they had relaxed sound restrictions, they were still very good about the sound in there.
Yeah,
like,
I find that chains are getting worse about that more and more often now.
I think just because they keep repeating it, like just because Nicole Kidman says it one time before the movie starts isn't going to stop all the rowdiness at AMC. But like, if you keep repeating it like they are doing at the Alamo Drafthouse, it works. It's like even clicks with the kids.
I didn't mean noise from the general public. I meant like actual like sound mixing in the theater.
Oh yes, that too.
That too.
Because like, yes, I do love going to Chunky's. Always an endorsement for Chunky's in Manchester. But like there is movies that are so loud they shake the theater next to you. Like going to Barbie, Oppenheimer shook Barbie in the theater next to me. You know,
Mhm.
like it was like, okay, you know,
You ever been to it where they're playing the stupid TV commercials before the trailers even
Yeah.
start, and that audio is hot.
hot.
That shit
It's
is
just like,
crackly.
next up, trivia. While you're sitting there in your seats, here's some trivia from Back to the Future. You're like, shut up. But it's like Alamo Drafthouse puts attention to detail with those type of things, where it's like before the movie started, they were just playing Sonic the Hedgehog commercials, and not just like normal commercials, like literally old Sonic like action figure commercials, Japanese like joke commercials they had of Sonic. Like it was just kind of a like weird eclectic collection of Sonic things, which felt like somebody who gave a shit collected them.
Yeah,
you know,
it always
like
feels specifically curated, and they go even more detailed depending on what movie is showing. When I went to go see Godzilla -1, what they put on was like a retrospective of the different eras. Just
That's
like, here's
awesome.
where Godzilla started. This is how like it started to veer into the silly stuff, and then we brought it serious again. It was like a little just a tiny little educational thing.
It's so cool. Again, we're not sponsored, but like you just gotta.
Yeah.
You just gotta. You kind of have to experience this.
Even when I went to go see The Boy and the Heron, there was just like, oh, here's all like the real life location references that have been used for the different Miyazaki films, and also here's like the real life references for all the food. You're like, oh, that's sick.
Yeah, that's sick. And the food was good. We had, and like we had the churro popcorn, and pretty solid. I like it.
Yeah, you had mozzie sticks. I had the loaded fries. I have always default to the loaded fries now. It's so good.
Bottomless sodas. You're like, okay, this is
so
good.
That was kind of the caveat for me. Or not even a caveat. That was like the compromise. Like, man, even if I hate this movie, I'm still gonna have some good food. I'm still gonna have good service. I like going there.
Yes, because okay. So before we get into talking about Sonic 3, you have to be like, what are you can go back, watch our reviews of Sonic 2. I don't think we have one of Sonic 1, do we?
No, I think we only talked about it in tandem because we did a general Sonic the Hedgehog episode.
Yes. So you can check out that episode, but basically it breaks down to Sonic 1 is not a good movie, but it has highlights of a good movie. Like you're like, oh shit, that was funny, or you're like, oh cool, that was cool. But then it's just not good overall. Sonic 2 is an okay movie that actually is like getting to being something, you know, like you're like, oh shit.
As we discussed, like when we first came out of it, you were like, man, I feel like I could edit this myself to make it better. I'm like, yes, if you cut out the human bullshit and that stupid stuff with like GUN at the wedding, this would be a great crisp 70-minute movie.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And then we now get to Sonic 3, and guys, good news. It's good, but only that. I would say it's only that. It's good.
I'm not as hot about it. I'm more of on like, it's fine.
Yes, I've seen the Sonic forums. I've seen the Sonic fandom. I'm on, you know, like I see the subreddits. I see the Facebook groups. I know the Sonic fandom is like, we got peak cinema, you know, like peak cinema, you know, like, and yeah, guys, to you did. Like I to all the Sonic fans, I'm so happy for you, because like this is what all the movies should have been the entire fucking time. You know, like that's the problem, is we're on the third movie and we finally get
we've only felt like we finally started.
We get like Dr. Robotnik in the fucking suit, and we get like great fights. We get like just sequences with no humans, so it feels like an animated movie, and you're like, this is what it should have been the whole fucking time. Like it's just it's a little maddening because it's good, you know, like it's one of those things where you're like, it's as somebody who went through the other movies, you're kind of like, okay, you finally got it, guys. Like, good. Like, this is cool. Like, this is like, yes, kids lost their minds about Sonic movie, you know, like, and it like probably changed their brain chemistry. But I think this is gonna fucking like, this is gonna do some serious damage to those kids.
Partially annoying only because I feel like people use that as an excuse to like lampshade these movies' issues. the whole old, like, oh, it's for kids. So what? So it's immune from criticism? It can't be better than what it is? Do you know how much, like, supposedly for kids entertainment that I grew up with that never talked down to me and that was still good regardless?
Yes. That's like, guys, Sonic, like, one of the things that kids have always loved about Sonic is the attitude and the way he doesn't talk down to you, you know, and is just kind of doing his adventure. I've read Sonic comics my whole childhood. Like, I grew up going up to, there was at the Hannafords, they had a little spin and it had tons of comics on it, but the comic I ran up to grab on the time and was keeping up with all the time was Sonic. And like,
I kept up with the cartoons, and I have continued to be super faithful to all these fucking games.
And like, so I like see why people love the first, like, because there's parts that like really shine out, and like to kids, they've never seen Sonic, so it's just like that's their first introduction, and it's sick. It's the same thing as the Mario movie where you're like, that's sick for those kids, but when you get to this, you're kind of like, no, this is what we should have been doing the whole time, sending James Marsden out for a fucking break for most of the movie, and guess what? We still probably could have edited him out of this movie. We just didn't need him, you know? Like, it's just one of those things where if they had the fucking balls, they would just not use any human characters that weren't like progressing the plot forward, because that's the problem with the James Marsden thing. It's always just like, Sonic, do the right thing, and he's like, I will, James, you know, like, and you're just like, I know his name's not, it's Tom, but like, I get, like, you just like, why do we keep on the third movie, we're kind of like, why are we doing this?
Get rid of these tag-alongs.
Yes. Because now we have a full cast of characters. You have Tails, you have Knuckles, and now you have Shadow. You have a full animated cast of characters. So we have lots of scenes where no humans are in it. And guess what? They fucking rock. Like, they fucking, like, they're actually, like, a lot of fun. There's so much fun in this movie. And most of the time, it's slightly ruined by humans at points. But I will give credit to this movie. They did a very good job of restraining that. They get, like, the James Marsden clips are very fast at the beginning, you know, like, and then even when they bring him in to infiltrate Gunn, it's just for a second that he's doing something, and then he'd get punched, and then he's dying for the rest of the movie, and you're kind of like, good, thank God. And you know, no spoilers, but like, that he doesn't die at the end. I know people were joking they were gonna like cheer when Maria dies at the end. I was gonna cheer when Tom dies at the end. I'm sick of him. I'm sick of him. Yeah. Just get rid of it. Like, just move on. You know, like, that's what I'm saying. This is a remnant of an age that you don't need anymore, you know, like a remnant where you're like, you didn't need it in the beginning, but like you thought you did. You thought you needed human characters and actors, but fucking Jim Carrey and Sonic the Hedgehog could have held the whole movie, and it shows this movie where it's just Jim Carrey and Sonic and Shadow for a bunch of scenes, and you're just kind of like, sick. And love it.
It's fitting that you brought up the Mario movie, because I think it's a good comparison to have, because I straight up had an argument with a friend about this, like, the fucking day after we saw Sonic 3, because these movies get me heated sometimes.
I know. I'm sorry. I've been yelling. I realize I've been loud and yelling, and I'm sorry.
They were talking about how, like, I made the joke that, like, the moment that they just decide to pull, like, a Into the Spider-Verse or Transformers 1, where they want to keep the live-action film going for the most part, but as, like, a little side thing, we'll also do animated. Let's expand. Let's see what other revenues we can get. And then we actually get people who actually care about the material, while the studio is just kind of indifferent about it because it's not the live-action franchise, so they can just play. And I said, the moment that happens, I'm fucking out of here. And then a friend was just like, yeah, but what if it turns out like the Mario movie? I'm like, I liked the Mario movie.
Yeah.
It's not a great movie. It's nothing groundbreaking, but you know what it is? Relatively unashamed to be itself.
Yes, that, and I would say it's good kid content where it's not speaking down to the kids. You know, like, and I will say, even Sonic 3 has a couple jokes where you're like, hey, everyone in the writer's room knew that wasn't good. You just thought we should do that because the kids might laugh at that,
Mario doesn't come to the real
and
world to sit in the cop car for most of its runtime.
yeah,
Even
exactly.
the fucking live action like Bob Hoskins Mario movie spent most of its runtime in a
In
different
Mushroom
world.
Land. Yeah, like and you're just like, damn. But
as opposed to this like paint by numbers, we don't really have much faith in the IP, so let's just do easy money. We'll do it live action, so we only have to pay so much for the CGI. We'll have it take place in the real world for no reason. That first movie is so generic that if you replace Sonic with some other generic like alien CGI character, it would change virtually nothing about
nothing,
it, which is
nothing
why I
about
don't
it.
like that movie.
No, and it's they even do the joke that there's literally a screenshot where Martin's sitting next to an Easter bunny in Hop,
From the
in
movie Hop.
almost the same car in these as he is sitting with Sonic, and you're kind of
almost
like
shot the same too. That just like flat comedy, like cinematography.
Yeah, you're like, oh guys, like not great, like not a. It just doesn't. It like it's not a good look, and it's just something that we need to phase out. This like reliance on having human actors in these.
The first movie,
definitely just animated movies.
They all kind of have this problem, but the first movie especially feels like something that would have been like a Nickelodeon original movie 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the vibe.
That's the exact vibe.
That's the exact vibe. And to be fair, that's why some people dig it. Like I feel like a lot of people view it as not that offensive, and I get it. That's fine.
But it's also just one of those things where like you guys need to open up your minds and be a little more creative. I've seen literally people defend the like first movie. It's just like, well, what else could they have done? It's just like, I don't know, the 30 plus years of video game and comic book and fucking other sources of material to pull from.
Just anything else.
Else?
And that's the thing about 2 is you start being like, oh, they're getting rid of the human parts, and look, there's like these big like cool segments they're throwing in here. And then in 3 they actually deliver, I feel like, and we get a movie that isn't fantastic. It isn't gonna blow your fucking socks off. Unless you're a Sonic fan, then you're gonna probably cream your pants when they go supersonic at the end. But like and to be fair, as a Dragon Ball Z fan, I kind of was like, sick, like, because I think they wear their influences on their sleeve with that whole end fight sequence. That is absolute. Like, as much as Super Sonic is just a reference to Goku, like, and kind of like. Like
yes and no. It's just a general Japanese mythology thing. There's like this whole fucking
turn
myth
gold,
about, like, Golden Warrior.
Yes, with the golden hair. But
for Sonic, it is pretty specific.
Yes, yes, exactly. It's kind of like seeing a motorcycle slide and not calling it an Akira slide.
Yeah, which they did here.
Yes,
every time we got to put the Akira slide in anything.
It's kind of funny. We've gotten to a point where it's like almost 4 a year now. Like where it's like 4 like legitimate big production Akira slides. And you're kind of like, oh. All right. I'm glad we're still referencing Akira this far down the line, like it's kind of shows how enduring it is. Enduring and enduring. But beside the point, I feel like the main strength of this movie is obviously its cast. I feel like that was the strength of 2, and I feel like 3 strengthens it even more with just the addition of a second Jim Carrey and, of course, Keanu Reeves. Because, I mean, this movies were fun because of Jim Carrey, and, and because, of course, why am I saying John Ralphio in my head? Stop it. Ben Schwartz. I'm like, his real name is Ben Schwartz. But he is like, him and Jim Carrey are the reasons to be there, like in the seats, and like they unlocked a little bit more with, like Idris Elba in two, and now we have Keanu Reeves and just like amping the Jim Carrey, and it's just kind of like, all right, now we have like an absolutely stacked cast,
Yeah,
like,
I don't feel like there's
crazy.
anyone as far as like the as far as like the major players that actually matter and aren't just made specifically to be boring human tagalongs,
Yes.
specific to the movies, have been miscast necessarily. I think I go hot and cold on certain characterizations.
Yes. I am. Uh, they also added this movie Christian Ritter. I feel like that was a nice add to this movie as director Rockwell. You know, like
Mm.
I feel like she was not an annoying ad to this fucking movie. And I was absolutely frightened when they brought Wade back for like 1 second there at the end. I know the fandom has forgiven him because they've seen Knuckles the show, and I haven't watched the Knuckles show yet because I don't know. I was
I'm
scared.
good.
I was scared.
I saw him like fighting humans in like mech suits and shit. I'm like, I'm good. And then even that one, for the people who like loved the other two movies before this third one even came out, were just like, you know what? This is kind of stupid.
This
is
but
kind of dumb.
I've heard
this doesn't even feel like Sonic related, and it's so much focus on like human shenanigans. I'm like, oh, you mean like the first two movies?
Yeah, you're like, huh?
They're all like this.
It's just, but I mean, this movie's main strength is leaning into its voice cast. I mean, Ben Schwartz is of course fantastic again as Sonic. I feel like he was born to voice Sonic. Like, yes, we've had absolutely stellar Sonic voice casts in the past. I feel like there's not many complaints in the Sonic,
well,
cast.
Maybe
some
not.
from us, but
I like Ben Schwartz as Sonic. I don't love him, and it's less about his performance specifically, and more about the way they've chosen to characterize him. Yeah. I think he gets like the goofy parts of Sonic right. I think he gets like the smarmy parts and just like that general sort of like boundless energy.
Yeah.
But I need more of the attitude. Anytime Ben Schwartz's Sonic tries to come off as like genuine attitude or like real like slightly pricky, it comes off as kind of like, nah, you ain't got it.
Yeah, I kind of feel that. But I kind of forgive it because I think he embodies that like Sonic fun energy a little more than he does the like Sonic skidding out after an explosion saying something cool energy.
Yeah, but that's what I want. I want the
attitude. I know, but that was kind of the best part about Keanu being added to the cast here.
I mean, you can have them both. It worked before, kind of like the game where Shadow was introduced. But it's one of those things where like I do like it. In fact, I like it more than the current voice of Sonic we've had for like a decade. Roger Craig Smith, who still has not grown on me.
Really? Because I don't mind him, like I know you don't like it, but I don't like. I feel like he sounds like Sonic, to me.
But
like
you're also coming from the perspective of like you've barely played most of like the modern era games.
Oh, I've played most. I don't know if all, but I've played most. I haven't beaten any of them, but I've played them. Like
it's just one, the pitch is weird. His voice has always been too deep for Sonic. And two, it's just, again, I just don't buy it. Every time I hear his voice, even though he's been Sonic for like fucking 15 years, it's still just like, oh yeah, the new Sonic voice. Like, wait, he hasn't been new for a long time. He's just been the
so
Sonic
true.
Voice.
It's
so jarring.
It does. I do think that every time he talks, I go.
And no specific disrespect to Roger Craig Smith, who is a good voice actor, and I do like him in a lot of other stuff. I just don't like his Sonic.
But I think. So we're talking about Keanu as Shadow. I was talking earlier about changing the brain chemistry of kids. It's a joke that it's a meme being like changing your brain chemistry, and I think all of us have a moment where we see something so cool or hear something so cool as kids, it changes us permanently. Like my taste in music permanently changed because of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, you know, like permanently fucked up because of that, you know, like, and Sonic, you know, like, I feel like you have to
Sonic especially for me.
Sonic especially. I feel like, you know, my pop punk comes a lot from Sonic, you know, or I'm like, sick and nice. That's the good stuff, you know, like, sounds like I could run to that.
I've never been more energetic at a concert than when I went to go see the Sonic Symphony.
I bet.
Because I am so, you know me, I am so low energy that most of my concert experiences boil down to like, pleasant.
See, I ain't that. I'm there to get down. But I think Shadow you know, Keanu Reeves as Shadow here might be so cool that the kids who, you know, are growing up and they're seeing Mario and they've seen the 2 Sonic movies and they love Sonic, and then they see Shadow and he fucking is riding a motorcycle and he kicks a fucking gun into his hand and he says,
time for a whole new generation to turn this character into their personality.
And he says, like, stay away from me. And I was like, first off, even as a grown adult, I was like, that was fucking sick, you know, like, but as a kid, that's too cool. It's too cool. Like, I was like, damn, Keanu Reeves, you brought too much cool to Shadow the Hedgehog. That, like, because, like, that's always been the thing, though. I feel like that's the reason why I kind of love this movie, is that I've always been a Shadow the Hedgehog fan, you know, like, oh, just cool. Just a cool, I love it, it's dark, you know, wields a gun, sick, you know, like,
of course.
It's like, moody Sonic, you know, like,
as much as like we make fun of it, we love evil equivalent characters, evil doppelgangers. We love your Shadows, your fucking Goku Blacks. Why do you think like fucking Marvel movies have been coasting on this for like so long now? Just like, oh my god, it's Iron Man, but it's the evil one. It's the evil Black Panther.
But like, this is one of the better ways to do it, you know, like, and I feel like they really kind of like nail Shadow here in a big way, and kind of like bring him to a modern audience in no uncertain terms, you know, like.
And the choice, like, on paper when it was first announced, I'm like, okay, I could kind of see that. Actually getting to see it in the film, it does work. It's actually closer to David Humphrey, who was the original voice of Shadow, more so than either his replacements, Jason Griffith or Kirk Thornton.
Yes, I agree. I feel
Which
like
is nice because David Humphrey is still my favorite. So it's like, it's closer to the thing I like more.
Yeah, and I mean, Shadow's just cool in general. Like, it's just a cool, like, idea, persona, like, thing. And I feel like they did such a good job at, like, capturing that and bringing that to the screen. And then also, not only that, but, like, referencing... this movie, of course, references Sonic Adventure 2 often. You know, like, I feel like that is an often reference in this. But, like, the amount of times they are referencing, like, Shadow's appearances in games is kind of incredible. Like, some of the shots of Shadow here are straight from games. Like, no question, straight from the games, updated to this model.
His game at that, which is funny because that game's place in the fandom has sort of made a full turnaround to being like, this is the stupidest, overly edgy bullshit that has ever been made. Why would you do this? To the full turnaround, just like, this is the stupidest, edgiest thing in the world, and it's so dumb, and I love it.
Yes.
So by the time we get to this, we're like, 20 years ago, if you saw Shadow like whip out a piece as a reference to his solo game, you would have been like, oh god, really, we're doing this? Now it's just like,
yeah. And it was like, I feel like it was like a moment, you know, like it's really cool. And I feel like, yes, his arc in here is kind of simplistic, but it's always kind of been simplistic with Shadow, you know, like, it's been like, I'm an anti-hero, you know, like, I'm a bad guy doing good things, you know, like, and here it's like he is the bad guy here. He is the antagonist, but then he can kind of tell the whole time he wants to, he could, that, like, and that's what I mean. They do a good job with his character here, is that it's not big, but, like, you can kind of tell the whole time he doesn't it's just a like Maria revenge thing. He's just like,
Yeah.
why'd they do this? And I feel like they do a good job of showing Shadow being conflicted in that, but kind of the whole time.
Hmm.
You're like, this is an animated character, and I'm like
It's
seeing
about
his
as good.
emotional
It's
tells.
about as close as they get to like some of the actual sinister stuff about Sonic Adventure 2, because Sonic
Right?
Adventure 2 is a dark game.
It's a dark game.
But there's no way they were going to adapt like all of that stuff in here. Gerald Robotnik in Sonic Adventure 2 is not just a silly Jim Carrey man.
Yeah, right. You're just like,
His
wait.
introduction is a videotape where he's confessing that he wants to destroy the world because of his granddaughter was murdered by GUN soldiers, and he just basically spits in the face of humanity. It's just like, all of you can suffer for it. And then he's killed by our firing squad.
You're
You
just
see,
like, oh,
in my perfect world, that would be the Gerald Robotnik we'd be getting. I don't give a fuck how dark it is. SA2's a kid's game. You can put it in a kid's movie, but whatever.
whatever. A different time. But I do give credit though. They do a good job of keeping him kind of sinister here. It's not like, yes, he's goofy with Dr. Robotnik, but he's obviously the more like a more effective evil Robotnik.
Aesthetically, he actually looks more like what I wanted Jim Carrey's Eggman to
Right?
look like from the jump.
From
like,
the
if you just
get-go.
combine those two designs, like keep the prosthetic makeup, paint the mustache brown,
Yeah.
and keep the red suit. That's basically what I want out of this.
Exactly. And yeah, like it's one of those things where you're like, I'm slightly getting what I want here. It's one of those moments with Dr. Robotnik. You're like, I'm sort of getting things I want here. Like, we get the crab, mobile here, and I thought that was a nice Dr. Robotnik
cool,
thing.
But I'm also tired of all the machines pulling. It's like the Decepticons in the live action Transformers movies. Why are they all gray? Where's the color contrast? Why do these all have to look like Apple devices?
It's true because I feel like most of the time Dr. Robotnik in games is pulling out a very colorful like machine.
The closest
red,
thing
blue,
we got was like
white,
the mech in the second one, where it's just like, wow, that just straight up looks like a Robotnik mech. Like, it's not all uniform white with like red on. It doesn't look like fucking GLaDOS.
Oh my god, yeah, right. It's just like it's one of those things where this movie delivers and doesn't at some point, so it's like it's not perfect.
It's one of those things where, like, relative to these movies, yes, this is the best one. I only think they've gotten marginally better than the last. Yeah. So by the time you get to the third one, I'm like, yeah, of course it's going to be like, oh my god, we went from dog shit to okay at best to okay at worst. Oh man, progress. But it's one of those things where, like, while we are finally taking like bigger steps in the right direction, these movies have foundational problems from that first movie that we're stuck with.
One cast member we didn't talk about is Colleen O'Shaughnessy, and I of course she is the most perfect part of all these movies. I do feel like they played with Tails' model a little here. They did something different. I'm not exactly sure.
Kind of done that already. Like, Tails even looked different in the post-credit scene from the first movie versus the way he was rendered in the second movie.
Right? Like, it's interesting, the evolution of Tails' model here. And Sonic, you were talking about, they kind of got rid of the whites in the middle, which is interesting. For those
who don't know or don't pay attention to these kind of details, for the live action, for the first movie, he actually has like a little tuft of like white fur on the bridge of his nose to sort of have like a little wink at the fact that in general Sonic designs, he kind of has like a uni-eye because there's no separation between the two eyes. I don't know if you guys can
see it.
Which works for animation, but when you want to do a photorealistic CG rendering, it'll look weird. So instead they gave him like a little white line on the bridge of his nose, which was clever. But by the time we get to the third one, I even looked it up to see if they got rid of it in the second one. It's there. It's just a little subtler. But here it's just kind of gone. It just kind of bleeds from like blue to flesh tone.
I also feel like in design, if we're talking designs, I feel like they also played a little bit with the way the mouths are looking here. Like the different colored like flesh thing that like Sonic has in here. It's like like kind of flesh going on. And then if we're looking at the picture, I know this isn't the most high-tech way to show this off, but like you could kind of see there with the Sonic 3 poster that it's different. And I think the reason why I was noticing it is Shadows is a little darker there, and it's interesting.
Shadows, it's always been a darker flesh tone than Sonic, especially in his first appearance. Like he has, like people joke that like Shadow straight up has melanin in Sonic Adventure 2 that like slowly fades when by the time you get to the later games. Like he has like very deep like tan skin in his first appearance.
Yes.
But it is one of those things where like I'm reminded that in those movies that flesh tone isn't actually flesh. They keep fur on that.
So I will give we were because talking about these like characters. My one bit like my kind of big complaint plot wise for this, and I was saying the humans, they need to get them out, and they even the little bits of them you were kind of like, get the fuck out of here, is they underutilize Tails and Knuckles. They don't really have anything to
despite the compliments of like the big cast and us not focusing on the humans as much. There's no stupid like extended wedding sequence equivalent. Tails and Knuckles still feel like they're kind of on the back burner here.
They don't really have plots, like it's kind of just like, no, they're there to help. Like the biggest struggle Knuckles goes through is deciding if he believes in Sonic to give him the Master Emerald, which like was already established in the last movie.
Going through some emotional shit.
Like it's just kind of like, like it was just kind of silly, and that was their like big conflict, like and it was just, and there's like no conflict with Tails either. He's just like, yeah, we're best friends, aren't you best friends with Robotnik? And like Stone's like, no, like and you're just like that's it for Tails. Stone,
oh my god, these running gags that stem from the first movie that they think are so funny that we keep bringing back. Oh my god, they still think the fucking goat milk latte is the funniest shit in the world, and we keep continuing to reference it.
I mean, at least it feels like a good conclusion to that, like, yes, it's stupid to keep bringing it up, but at least it, brings it kind of full circle with Robotnik dying at the end there, which, like, what are we doing killing Robotnik, by the way? Like, what are we,
I don't know.
I mean, yes, Jim Carrey should retire. Like, I feel like he deserves it. The man deserves to retire whenever he
was going
like
to do this after the first movie.
Yeah.
Then he continued, then he came back for the 2, and now he came back for 3. So,
and to be fair, he dies
slightly skeptical.
Yeah, he dies at the end of every single one of these. So we'll see. But this feels a little bit more final, even emotionally. So, like, maybe Jim Carrey will stay out, but maybe he'll just come back as like Robo Botnik, like maybe he'll just be the Robo version of himself that they do in what fucking game do they do that where he's just a robot the whole time? But I forget. But it's like maybe they'll do that with Jim Carrey voicing it, and he can make some voice acting money, and you're just like, all right, there you go.
That's like check.
Yes, because Jim Carrey deserves to keep living a happy, nice life. I feel like that. That seems like.
I mean, these movies have basically been his retirement. Fund.
Exactly. You're just
but
like,
also kind of a return to form to like his really zany like '90s, early 2000s like Jim Carrey shenanigans.
Because I feel like this Robotnik especially, it pulls from. A little bit from Batman, the Riddler, from Batman, like it definitely, it's like it's him doing that sort of thing. I mean, he was always sort of doing that again,
like, he's just doing, that's just him. He's just doing him.
Well, I mean that by like bringing the grandiose villain thing to it, like instead, like, cause like, yes, like, he's done Grinch and things, but it's like it's cool to go full meat
megalomaniacal.
Yes, but I feel like he could. I do feel like they, they make it silly this time, but it's still fun. Like it's still a good time for Robotnik. But I feel like Jim Carrey, he gets he like I said, can continue to do what he wants to do forever and ever.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. But
I could have used more music.
Yeah.
Just pivoting.
I feel
I appreciated
there's
the live and learn nod and the like, but some of these movies are really shy about including the music. Even the fucking Mario movie with its unnecessary insert songs, which they composed music for.
I know, which makes it like I've seen it and them put the composed music back in to certain scenes, and you're kind of like,
oh, that's better. Why that it is better. Oh better. Damn, we missed straight up a whole nice like Donkey Kong medley that they had made.
Yep, and like even just the sabotage scene in New York. Is that at the beginning when they're like jumping through a bunch of stuff in New York,
and they do fucking No Sleep Till Brooklyn.
No Sleep Till Brooklyn. And I've seen them put the Mario music back in, and you're kind of like,
yeah, like that was definitely like a last minute change.
Yeah, well, it's not even a last minute change. That's money, like that's money for everyone involved. That's the reason why they do that.
But it is one of those things like, you guys got as far as actually composing it, and all of that stuff that's missing from the movie is still on the soundtrack. This was really last minute.
Because like I mean think about it when we're talking about money, is that like an original soundtrack, the musicians and the composer and the studio make the money back on that, like on that type of stuff. But when you put a licensed song into it, it's not only the artist makes the money from it, the studio, Universal or whatever makes money from it. They sell a copy, like another copy of the song again, like it makes a lot of financial sense because it's basically a repackaging of already made product that they are that they don't have to change.
I understand it from a business.
No, I'm just saying it for the podcast.
With it.
I'm just saying it for the podcast. I feel like sometimes some people do not understand why these decisions are made at that type of level. Like, why did we slap No Sleep Till Brooklyn in here? Because, everyone can make a little money, like is basically it, like it kind of goes from being like, oh yeah, when we sell our soundtrack, like these people make money. But like Into the Spider-Verse and from Across the Spider-Verse, both knew what they were doing by putting in like a soundtrack that they made themselves for this movie, but with various artists. It's like spreading the love, but they control the love, like instead of just being a pop thing, like it's like
exactly.
Yeah. It's like certain things can happen, Guardians of the Galaxy can like re-give a band life, it can like make them,
but that's the difference
between retirement,
like catering a soundtrack specific to the story you're trying to tell,
as
opposed to like put something popular in here, because
put something loud in here, right? Come on, let's go. But I do feel like there was some good music. I feel like the music was good here. I just feel like we could have used some more OST, and
even like great,
because it was good when it was happening. The OST was like, okay.
And even great like adaptations have this problem. Like Castle, the entire first, not counting Nocturne, the first whole series of Castlevania only uses Bloody Tears for one battle, and that's the extent of any of the video game music they use that whole time.
You're like, come on. Show. You're like, what? Like it's one of those things where we're starting to get to a point where like the faithful adaptions, they're using the music, are getting the money, like, and are winning their awards, like Fallout, like, so it's like one of those things where we're kind of like, you're kind of sitting there being like, all right, like, I mean, I kind of needed, so one big another disappointment as a fan, and I feel like this is just me nitpicking at this point, is when they did the helicopter scene, they say, what, no in-flight entertainment? I'm out of here.
Yeah,
the opening forced. To Sonic 2, and then he jumps back and they fly out and they don't use a skateboard or anything to skate on. They just land and
Yeah, if you're
fight
gonna if you're
and
gonna do that, one, you might as well do the fucking airboarding or like the city escape shit.
and
And two, just the way it was delivered, it felt so ham-fisted.
it's a fine line because it was funny. It's funny because it's always been bad, like. But why did you not give me rolling around at the speed of sound? Like,
I disagree. It's not always been bad.
it
It perfectly fits the situation in which he's in.
I mean, sure.
He's literally been arrested, and he's just giving them the middle finger as he's on his way out.
Yeah,
as opposed to like, we're working together. Why would you say this line right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's just to be, it's like a superhero line, I guess.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, as I took it as. But it's one of those things that they like are doing the reference, but they don't fully commit to the reference. And guess what? That's one of those moments that I was talking about changing your brain chemistry. That's it. Like the skateboarding to that song through this, like I could play that level again and again and again and again and again. Like I really can. Like, and I've done it. Like I've just
when I went to the Sonic Symphony, that was like the first big song that like had everyone pop the fuck off. I still have the clip of it that I like to watch every now and again. Of when I saw everyone just fucking freaking out.
It's funny. That's great. I love that.
It is one of those things where like they want to make those hallmarks, but they shove it in places where it doesn't work. Like, stop trying to fucking make the gotta go fast thing a thing. It's always been a meme. It's a lyric from the Sonic X opening. It works because that's what the song is, but every time we try to fit, it feels like we don't fit it because it's appropriate. We fit it because, that's what the normies think of when they think of Sonic. They think of gotta go fast.
Gotta go fast. But I feel like there's things to leave behind and grow in 4, and I feel like the best move in Sonic 4 is to literally go to Mobius and just completely go full animated Mufasa movie, like straight up, like get like that. I'm fine. Like, let's please do that because I'm sick of dealing with humans. I like, and with
we've had
Dr. Robotnik being dead, let's just move on.
We've had 3 adventures that have been on Earth. Everything is all so domesticated and kind of boring. The closest we got was the second movie where he's like running through the temple trying to catch up to Eggman and Knuckles. That was sick because it felt like something that was otherworldly, but we're just stuck in like flatly shot, like probably shot in Canada. It's all just so domesticated. We're on a fucking long road because the one thing I ever wanted from a Sonic movie was a fucking road trip with a cop.
But to be fair, I when we're talking cinematography for this movie, I do feel like they amped up a lot here. I feel like
only when it pertains to like when it's fully CGI scenes, basically.
Yeah, well, no. I feel like even like the reveal of Gerald Robotnik, I feel like they did a good job of him like walking out of the shot. I feel like they, like there's a few like really like well done lit dramatic scenes here that like kind of outshine the other 2 movies in a big way, and I was kind of like, all right. Like in just that aspect. But when we're talking, action sequences, though, I feel like this is. I feel like there's sequences here that are really well done. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like the first shadow fight is like a classic anime fight, in a lot of ways, like and I think they did that in a great way, and of course the end fight is basically a big Dragon Ball reference. I feel like it's a like a huge Dragon Ball reference, but then they kind of go into at the end there the like them fighting all the robots. That was there was sort of like a Gundam reference when they're like fighting in space and stuff. It was very strange, like very like.
I mean, they needed to find something for them to fucking mow through. We do this for every action movie now. Yes. We need some like nameless drone so we can plow.
Exactly. They gotta have it. You gotta be able to kill 100.
Especially since they were never gonna do the fucking bio lizards. They're like, okay, none of that. So we gotta have something for them to fucking fight in space.
But I did like those sequences because they were well done. Like they're not they're actually like feeling kinetic, like and moving instead of when
Yeah.
we for the first movie, the only like big highlight of the action wise is him fighting taking down those missiles, like that is
The one that's
it,
like all slowed down.
that was just, and that was in the trailer, like that was like a
Yeah, it
huge
was not
part of the
only in the trailer, but we're kind of over that effect. The whole like
yes.
slowing down time. We've been doing this shit since fucking Futurama. And to be honest, nothing has topped the Quicksilver stuff from the Fox X-Men movies.
Yes, yeah.
Like we nailed it. We nailed it there, and everything has just kind of been in its shadow. The closest we maybe came was like the Speed Force sequence in the Snyder cut.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, like
yes, I would say that
we got to find a different way to portray speedsters.
Yeah, because I feel like they the Flash movie gets some of it, but is weird about it, like, and you're just like So it's like none of them have been as perfect as the Quicksilver, like. So I'm glad they've kind of like, but that kind of kinetic fight sequence they bring in more in this, I feel like, and that kind of feeling of like moving through the fight sequence as they're doing it happens more here, and I feel like they're able to accomplish
and because
it
it's
better.
like so not held back, because even the climax of the second movie is just like, oh, Sonic goes supersonic and fights a robot in the suburbs and some shit, as opposed to like them fighting and they're going through the earth and they're fucking bringing up lava and then they fucking punch each other to the moon. I'm like, this is what I'm talking about.
This is what I'm talking about, right? You're like, okay, we're like doing something with the Sonic, like supersonic form here.
Enough with like the people won't buy it. We have to make it realistic. Put a bunch of human characters in it. We're 3 movies deep. These movies have made a lot of money. You should now have the confidence to just fucking go for it and stop playing around.
And I feel like that's some of the biggest strengths of this movie is when they really go for it, like, and even when we're talking about like, even I thought I would cringe really bad at the dancing Robotnik scene, but to be fair, it's just kind of wacky fun, like I thought I would cringe real bad at that type of thing, but I didn't, like I mean, it was not, it wasn't made for me. That type of sequence, like it's for the kids and that will make them laugh because to Jim Carrey, and that's totally fine.
Like, yeah, I probably would have had a much better time with it were I a kid, because I fucking ate up anything like Jim Carrey related.
Exactly. I mean, I was very similar. So I feel like it's commendable.
I'll take laser light show dancing with 2 Robotniks, because Robotnik's already inherently like a clownish character, as opposed to like fucking Sonic and Tails dancing to Uptown Funk.
Yes, I mean yes, yeah. That's what I'm saying. This is like when we're talking about like the mistakes of the other movies, they've all done dance sequences, and like the first one is rough. The second one is I could see why the kids would like it, but was rough. And then this one, I can just see why this is fun. Like I can just see why it's fun. Like it's not. I'm not upset. Like I'm not like, oh my goodness, please stop.
There was no flossing.
Yes, and I feel like it's just like even like the sequences of them being together in the VR like headsets and doing like fun stuff together was actually really fun, and I was kind of like, okay, this was like an added bit I thought would be stupid and for kids, but I love this. Like
I'm glad it had that context at least, because I remember seeing clips of that, like the Santa thing where he just fucking tackles them, and my thought was just like, what in the fuck? Where? What is the context for this?
Yeah, right. It is fucking funny though. Like just seeing the Santa, like it's some good physical humor. Like I get, like, I've seen interviews of people being like, Jim Carrey's reaching a physical humor here that, is like, and you're like, yeah, like, I feel like this still feels like the physical humor of Liar, Liar. This still feels like the physical humor of Ace Ventura. Like, he, even at this age, he's still bringing that, like, and I feel like that
doesn't feel like he's like slowed down. It's not like when you watch It's not like when you watch something like Rush Hour 3, you're just like, ooh, Jackie Chan ain't smooth with it like he used to be. He's getting up there now.
And like even I feel like with Ben Stiller, I feel like we're kind of reaching a point where he's kind of not as funny as he used to be. I'm kind of worried about Happy Gilmore too. They seem to be involving a lot of
You
Ben
mean Adam
Stiller.
Sandler?
No, Ben Stiller. Like I'm talking him playing the like mean.
Oh yeah, the orderly.
Yeah, he's a big part of the second movie. I don't know how. Like,
I mean, I'm skeptical about a Happy Gilmore 2. Period.
Yes, period. But could be fun. Like probably bad, but could be fun. But that, like, I feel like it's one of those things where I may not forgive Ben Stiller for Walter Mitty, and I feel like at this point I'm not really like excited to see Ben Stiller in a role. Like I'm kind of like, stop. Like, I'm just like, no. Like he's in the new SZA music video as just like singing her song, and I'm just kind of like,
I didn't like
anybody
Walter
else
Mitty
I would like
either, but I'll forgive a lot of things for the guy who directed Tropic Thunder.
I mean, fair. To be fair, yeah, you're right. So the man did Tropic Thunder, and of course, he. And
you know what? Everyone has their peaks and valleys, and their eventual like dip.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like at some point you have to figure out where you place New in your acting roles. Like where you should be. Like because that's. And when you don't change on that, that's when I feel like we're getting that point of Ben Stiller. He needs to change.
Yeah, and even Carey sort of like recognized that himself. He had that like pivot in like the the aughts where he's just like, no, I want to do serious stuff now. I want to do stuff like The Majestic and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Just to show people that I do have more reins than just, me being silly old me.
Yeah, and did you see who's taking a serious turn? Super weird. It's Markiplier. He's in an Amazon TV show this month that just dropped, and he's in a movie coming up too, like a very kind of serious movie. And you're just like, okay, sure, good job, Markiplier. Like but it's kind of funny because, of course, the kids aren't letting him have it at all. Like every time they advertise the show, I see it. The comment section is like, Markiplier, you ain't hiding. Like all the kids are just like, Markiplier. Like instead of being like, oh, cool, he's in a show. They're like Markiplier. Like, and they're just not caring about whatever the show is. Like, and you're just like, all right. Like, but besides the point, I enjoy this movie. I think that this is finally where we should have been from the very beginning. There's a great cast. There's some funny jokes, some good action sequences. There's definitely some groan jokes and some sequences where you're groaning, but definitely not as much as the second movie, and nowhere close to the first movie where you're just like, please stop. With the whole first movie, first movie, you can stop. But this one, I feel like I can watch it again at some point, and like enjoy it, and like, because like I
could watch it again.
I'm gonna watch clips of Sonic 2. That's all I can do.
Yeah, I could watch it like maybe one more time and not be angry about it.
Yeah,
I'm not going out of my way. I'm not frothing the mouth over it.
Yeah, when your buddy's like, I haven't seen Sonic 3 yet, you'll be like, this one time.
Yeah,
this
I one just be like, I'll put it on, fuck it.
But basically, does it belong on your warp shelf? Yeah, if you're a Sonic fan. If you're a Sonic fan, you're gonna be over the green hills for this one. You're gonna be fucking excited. You're gonna be chuffed, mate. You're gonna be excited for this.
I was chuffed over select bits.
Yes, exactly.
But also those not select bits didn't make me angry.
Yes.
I put in, like, I've mentioned my media thread before. I think I prefaced this one with just like, I didn't want to kill myself.
I didn't want to kill myself. And that's a really solid review from Deshaun. He didn't want to kill himself watching it, so that's a solid review. But I don't know if this belongs in everybody's shelf per se, but like of the Sonic movies to own, this is the one to own. I do think this will probably be on Paramount Plus in a couple weeks, or and so I'm not saying you need to own this for your shelf, but again, guys, physical media, you never know when they're gonna not be streaming the Sonic movie. So if you are a big fan, put it on your shelf. But if you're not, this could be one of those ones that you just keep on streaming. You see sometimes, but if your kids fucking go head over heels for this one, you're gonna want to own it. Want it on Blu-ray, because Paramount Plus will just get rid of a movie. They're like, oh yeah, we own that, and they're like, no, we're getting rid of it. And it's just to give the streaming rights to Netflix, to Hulu, to somebody else for a little while.
Yeah,
so
it's not just them. That's just streaming services.
That's just streaming service in general.
I saw
but I will say
over the mouth because Mask of the Phantasm's getting put on Max. I'm like, it's been on Max before.
Yeah, right.
Cycling in and out.
Ah, God, it's the same thing as I think it's Netflix being like, we got Furiosa, we got Furiosa, and you're like, HBO had Furiosa this whole fucking time. Like, whether you're like, oh, okay, it's one of those things where you're like, what? Oh, fine. We haven't not had access to Furiosa yet, but okay,
that's specifically for those peeps who only have Netflix and refuse to get anything else.
Yes,
which treat Netflix like it's the only source of TV.
Good for you. Good for you to those people, because they're probably saving some money. But but at the same time, you could just share services with your family and friends. That's another option.
Yeah, that's the thing. And saving money is relative as the prices continue to fucking hike up.
So that's kind of our. Is there anything else you want to bring up? We kind of gave our final review, but is there anything else you want to bring up about this Sonic movie?
Nothing specific. I would say if you've liked the movies and it was your gateway to the games, I'd recommend getting Sonic and Shadow Generations.
Yes.
Just because it's one of the best of the modern games.
Yeah, and if you're a
parent,
it's
finally been made available again,
sitting there being like, which game do I get my kid to show them Sonic, Shadow in a game? Get that.
Yeah.
That's gonna probably be the most accessible, the nicest.
Unfortunately,
you can play the other ones.
If you're a little
Steam,
older and you want to go directly to the source, your only option is either buying it on original hardware or getting it on PC. But the problem is the PC version, specifically for Sonic Adventure 2, if you want some Shadow stuff, is ass. In fact, I was just troubleshooting for a couple hours yesterday.
I was wondering what was going on, because you were on and off Sonic 2. It was I was sitting there playing the game and just kept being like, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Adventure 2, and I was like, Jesus Christ.
I was trying to get it to fucking boot properly for 2 hours.
Oh, I had some similar issues with Steam Deck. I had to look up a solution and I made it happen. I don't remember the solution off the top of my head, but
there are a couple different ones.
It's a couple different
My primary
things.
thing is that the launcher for it is so old,
right?
It straight up doesn't fucking work.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Is literally this is a released game on Steam and it doesn't fucking work. People are spending money and probably having to refund because they can't fucking figure out how to launch this thing.
Because I wanted to play it with mods, so I modded the shit out of it just to clean it up.
Oh, really?
I had to mod it just to get it to run. And then when I finally did get it to boot, it wouldn't detect any gamepad I would plug in. So I had to literally download a mod to install just for that.
Holy shit, dude. That's crazy.
But and I finally got it working.
Yeah, and this is a game I think they gave it verified status. I'm not sure what they gave it on Steam Deck, and I was like, what the fuck?
From what I hear, it really varies from person to person.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's just like, oh yeah, it used to run like shit on my last laptop, but on my new one, it ran fine with no issues. And I see it goes back and forth. Some people it runs just fine. A lot of people it gives them issues.
It's $5 right now.
I had to go deep, dude. I'm talking I have to go into these system files and start renaming shit.
That sucks. So, all of Sonic is actually on sale right now, guys. So if you want, if you're buying on PC, every Sonic game is available for sale and 50% off or more. Sonic Mania is 75% off. Shit, dog. Don't get Sonic Forces. Save yourself.
Yeah, especially with Generations being available again for modern stuff. Like, you have no reason to play Forces at all.
There isn't much on PC though. Like, this is I'm looking at a kind of sparse list of Sonic games that are officially on Steam. Like, because you have Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, Sonic Hedgehog 4, all the episodes, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, Sonic All-Star Racing Transform Collection, Sonic Lost Worlds, which
not great.
Yeah, not great. Sonic Generations, good stuff. Sonic Mania, good. Sonic Forces, Team Sonic Racing, also crap. It was okay.
Yeah, not great. Not as good as the All-Star games.
Yeah. And then Sonic Mania Encore, which they count as a separate thing.
Yeah.
But that's kind of crazy that's it. So no Sonic 2, like no Sonic 3, none of the advanced games, you know, like kind of nuts. Like,
maybe not in that bundle, but there's no way there's not, because the Origins collection was specifically based on the mobile ports.
No, they got they got it as a separate bundle, the Legacy collection. No, even here. What the fuck? It's not here. They just got Sonic Adventures.
Because I'm pretty sure Origins is on PC.
Yeah, what the fuck? Maybe they're just being weird with their bundle here. No, Sonic Origins is. They're lying to me. I hate them. What the hell? Is there a Sonic team list here? No, of course not. Okay, so there's other. Not much though. Not much. But, like, to be fair,
PC is kind of your specific bet, because otherwise, like, a lot of this stuff doesn't have modern ports.
No.
The last time, like, SA1 and 2 had, like, a port on the consoles was, like, PS3 360.
I sort of wish, you know, in a world where we got Battle Network as a collection and we got all the we got the Marvel vs. Capcoms as a collection, I would love a Sonic Advance collection. You know, like, all those games in one...
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Beautiful package, you know, like that plays well together. I know that would be kind of crazy, but like in a world where we're doing that thing where we're bringing all the advanced games back to like play all together, you know, be kind of cool. Be kind of nice to be able to play those games again, because the advanced games are fun. Yeah, exactly.
Especially for a franchise this beloved. Like, come on.
Yeah, and I worry about advanced games because they. You know, once, you know, something comes corrupted on those things, if those files haven't been transferred somewhere, those games are gone. You know, like, it's just kind of like talk about preservation.
I worry even more for DS and 3DS because functionality is an issue.
Yeah, right.
It's hard to, like, replicate that in emulation.
Crazy. It's scary. It's scary how much games can disappear. And, I mean, we kind of talk, I mean, this is the whole point of this podcast is, like, what should you own and take home?
I would say like one of, but
one of the things, yes. But like when we're talking about this movie, you don't have to own this one. But I would try to own as many Sonic games as you can, because they're notorious for this type of shit, where it's like, oh, I can't play that anymore. And then the only way is the high seas, and they don't exactly like that. But you know, but that's the way she be. Yeah. You know, like,
I mean. This guy right here, the Sonic Gems collection, was a big deal because it was the first time we got some of this stuff. Like, if you didn't have a Sega CD, which most people didn't, then you weren't playing Sonic CD until they ported it to this.
No. And Sonic CD is a fun time. You know, like, it's weird, but it's a good time. You know, like, and there's also Sonic CD Pinball, right? There's another Sonic Pinball game that's hidden on the CD. And you're just kind of like, crazy, you know.
We still to this day have like Sonic games that have never been localized.
No, the kind of fucky. I mean, I'm lucky to have a lot of Sonic games on my, you know, my emulator machines, like, you know, like you know, my Mio here, but like, it's still, that's not the same thing, you know, like, and it's even just, then,
I would say one of the bigger problems is that the like modern collections. Just straight up, a lot of the time aren't as good as they used to be.
Yeah.
Like, you're paying how much for Sonic Origins collections, which is just 1 through 3 and Knuckles and CD, whereas, like, I got Mega Collection Plus, on the PS2 right here that has Sonic 3 and Knuckles, that has 3D Blast, that has
Yep.
Spinball, that has Mean Bean Machine, that has some of the Game Gear games.
Right, and the Game Gear games are fun. Like I had a couple of them, so you're just kind of, it's one of those things where you're like, it's scary with how the Sonic games in general, they're the biggest example of just like there could be lost media very soon, like, and because it's just such a big, it's a big franchise now, but it wasn't at the time, like, and things can disappear like that, like, so. We'll see.
Regardless.
Yeah, regardless. Buy games, basically. Own the Sonic games if you can, because you never know. I would say, yeah, own a physical copy of the Sonic Generations, too. Like, that feels like something that you're going to want to own a copy of. Don't just be like, I have it on Xbox Game Pass. For now. Fucking, yeah, own it. Own this shit. Because Sonic games will just disappear on you, and that's not cool. So, besides the point, thank you guys for supporting the show. Own physical media. Support our show by clicking any of the buttons down below, making the algorithm do its thing. Also support the show by watching on YouTube. You can be watching our beautiful faces on YouTube right now, or you could be listening on any podcast platform you want. But if you want all those things in one, you can go to galaxygeek.com, where we have all of it. In every one of every post we have will have the audio and the visual versions of these. So,
yes.
And every episode of this podcast. So you can just keep going back in there if you want to keep checking out episodes. Now, if you guys want to support our private social medias, you can check out Yep Frank or Yep Gundam if you're into that, or Yep Fishing if you're into fishing. And Shan?
And with me, pitiful, I don't have to make separate usernames. I just post whatever I want. I'm Mod Karika pretty much everywhere. I'm mostly active on Instagram and Threads for now, only because that's just where I put in like my media thread stuff.
Yes.
What am I now? I'm past like 550.
That's crazy. So just a little teaser. We will have the next episode we'll be doing will be our year in review.
Yeah,
episode.
Will probably be that. Unless you see Nosferatu, we'll want to talk about that or something.
Of course. Yeah, that might be it. But
either way, year in review is coming up.
Year review's coming up, and basically that means everything we've seen that's new this year we will be talking about. Every game we beat that was new to us, we will talk about, or if Deshaun platinumed an old game, he, still beat the fuck out of it, even if he's played it before.
I did platinum a lot of games this year.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, dude. So it's going to be our usual extravaganza episode. We'll try to move as fast as possible through our many things.
Well, hopefully this time I won't have somewhere to be, so I'm not trying to rush you through it.
Yes, we'll make time. We'll make time, and we'll have our big bang New Year's episode as we usually do. But guys, thank you so much for supporting the show. I really appreciate every one of you that listens or likes or downloads, whatever you do. So really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.
We'll see you next time.
Adios.